You're listening to the Ballet Piano Podcast, lifting the lid on dance accompaniment.
Hello, ballet fans, and welcome back to the Ballet Piano Podcast, and to this episode where we'll be discussing Battement Glissé and Battement Jeté. I'm here with the usual motley crew: Chris Hobson.
Hello.
Akiko Hobson.
Hello.
And hashtag David Yao of Instagram.
Hello.
And I'm Matt Gregory, taking the reins on this episode. Now, before we get into it, we have a huge thank you to say, don't we, to all the listeners and for all the response and the feedback that we've had so far. I mean, it's been pretty amazing, hasn't it?
Phenomenal.
I mean, Chris is our Mr. Stats man. I mean, what are the stats?
Stand the statistician here in the corner, yes. Well, we've been downloaded so far in over 60 different countries, which is it's incredible, isn't it? So we can say hello to the English speakers, konnichiwa to Japan, hola to Spain, guten tag to Germany, ciao to Italy, and bonjour to France, to name, just a few countries.
So we have lots of Japanese listeners then.
Japan is our third most downloaded country at the moment. Yes, so konnichiwa.
Amazing. Yeah, it's been crazy. And we're so grateful, aren't we?
Yes. Can't believe it. It's amazing how it's taken off. I'm so proud.
So we need you to keep spreading the word and spreading the love. And if this is your first time listening, do go back and listen to our other episodes. We're on all major podcast providers, and you can also connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to check us out. Now, as is customary in these episodes, we first throw over to our resident ballet legend, David Yao of Instagram, to explain about the terminology. So, David, what the blinking heck is a Battement Glissé and a Battement Jeté?
Okay. Glissé in ballet terms means gliding. Yes, movements that glide along the floor or are small. But they leave the floor, so your foot comes off the floor. So you're sliding out from a closed position, let's say first or fifth position, and you slide your foot out in any direction until you can't go any further and your toes come off the ground. And you do it quite quickly and swiftly. So that's kind of a gliding movement along the floor. And jeté, we talk about throwing the leg into the air. So it's going to go a bit higher, just around about below the knee level. So they're two different movements, but they're kind of related.
So it's the glide and the throw.
Exactly.
So it's similar but different, basically, is what,
One is faster than the other, shall we say. Yeah. The gliding movement is generally faster. And you use that for very, very quick movements when you're trying to get from A to B or do something very quickly like beats, practice an action for beats, which we'll talk about later. And then when we're talking about jeté, we're talking about starting to build up the class movements so that you can jump in the center and gain height for bigger jumps.
And they're very similar movements, aren't they?
Yes.
But notably different heights of the extended leg.
It's the quality, really, with which you actually do them that makes the difference.
Okay.
Okay. Because quite often on the CDs that I produce and things like that, I will do like clang. They're called Modern Ballet Studio Melodies. Download from iTunes. I'll chuck in 20 quid of sponsorship for that. I often will do a similar music for a glissé and a jeté.
Yes,
just because I know from experience musically it's interchangeable, or it can be interchangeable.
Yes,
yeah. So, David, for a Battement Glissé exercise, could you sort of talk us through how you would set one? Would you put glissé and jeté in the same exercise?
You can, yes, you can do, depending on the people that you're teaching and the purpose of what you want to do. So I would say for a glissé, I'd use a faster tempo, a 2/4 or a 6/8 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very close to the ground. So that's why you'd want a faster tempo, because you want to make the movement and the muscles of the legs move faster. The jeté tends to be a bit slower, a bit steadier, with the action of feeling that you want to throw the leg higher in the air. That's why you need more time to do it.
Yeah.
Like some teachers do like a tendu and then second time a bit faster speed with the jeté.
True. And I do that too as well, because then you're training the muscles in two different ways, but you're saving on time because you're not actually describing a completely different exercise. So it kind of does two things in one go, shall we say.
So how would you set it then? Let's say with a jeté?
So if I start with a jeté, it would be steadier, and I'd choose a 2/4 perhaps. And let's say we do 2 jetés to the front and a battement pique. A pique means like when if you are going to tap the floor with your toe with a fully extended leg very quickly.
Like a prick.
I was trying to avoid.
Does pique mean to prick?
It does.
Perfect.
So the action of just being, if you like it, reflex action. If you stab yourself with a needle or something, you immediately withdraw your
That rebound.
hand. Yes, like a rebound.
Yeah.
So if I said like 2 jetés to the front, and we're going to go jeté out to the front and in and out and in to 5th position, then out and a pique and a close and a hold. So we would do it like an 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and a 5 and a 6 and a 7, hold 8. And we might do that en croix, which means in the shape of a cross. So we go front to the side, to the back and the side. And then we might do it double tying. Yes, she might go and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, which would be out in, and pique and a close. So that's twice as fast for the glissés as you would for the jetés.
I'm getting a very modern major general about that.
And David, how important is the 5th position?
It's crucial.
Yeah, because as well as the extension being important, I always hear from teachers that the 5th position and the closing is important. And you've got to, the extension has got to be as good as the closing in 5th.
Yes. So we're always focusing on the actual basic positions that we make, like the closing position, like feet in 1st or 2nd or 3rd or 5th. Generally, we don't use 3rd as much, but 5th position especially we use a lot.
Yeah.
And when you see dancers on stage, they'll often be just standing in 5th position because it's a very elegant position and it's very safe to stand like that. But actually getting to that 5th or from that 5th, we also have to have the precision of knowing where we're going to and from. And of course, dancing is all the bits, the movement that happens in between those movements. And how you do it, you can do that in a million different ways. And that's what we're always trying to train the muscles to do, is to move at different speeds, at different heights, different ways. But we're always going to go to and from those very basic positions.
And the battement jeté, I put my teeth in. Battement jeté and battement glissé.
Yes.
I think this is where it starts relating to jumps.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
Yes.
At the bar?
Yes. So you're getting closer to the action and the speed of what you will do when you jump. And if you want to beat your legs in the air, which we do later, that's the action you're aiming for, the speed.
Brilliant. And so, Akiko, Chris, and David,
Hello.
what are our initial thoughts on music for battement glissé and battement jeté?
Always crispy.
Crispy. Akiko said in the last episode that tendu is the first exercise where accents really become very important.
Yeah.
And now with glissés and jetés, we start to get a little bit of speed behind it. So it's the first quick exercise that you're going to get in a ballet class usually.
Yes.
And that's when we can start to have a little bit of fun.
Well, exactly. What I love to do is start slowly and then start to speed things up.
Yes.
And then, at the end, it's really exciting that you've actually, evolved into this very quick movement. And perhaps if you'd started like that, the students would have looked twice at you and thought, I'm not going that fast anyway.
Yeah.
I can't do that. But actually, by just gradually getting faster, you've actually made them do something that perhaps they thought they couldn't do.
I sometimes play something and then teachers start to speed up, which I didn't know when I started.
Yeah.
And then reaching to the point that, oh my God, am I going to be able to play with this speed? But I have to keep going.
Because you normally like 10, 15 minutes into the classes when you get to glissés and jetés, isn't it? If you're in education, maybe slightly quicker at company. And it takes a drastic tempo shift from tendu into the exercise, isn't it? It's going from the slow, indulgent fours that we were saying in the last episode through to quick, brisk twos or fast tarantellas.
Yeah.
Having them all ready at your fingers to go.
So by then, if your coffee hasn't kicked in.
I've made sure that my coffee's kicked in by this point. I've worked out how to do it.
Yeah.
But then the plethora of repertoire that you can do is brilliant, isn't it? It depends on how you're going to approach the rest of the class sometimes. But you could go reels, you could do the Muppets theme tune, you could do etudes, tarantellas, or
even classical tune, Beethoven and things like
Pirates
that.
of the Caribbean. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So how do you actually, when you're playing that fast? I mean, how are you what's your brain thinking at that speed when you've got to when you think, oh, look, what am I going to play next? How do you go about that? Have you already set something up, or are you just relying on your experience? Or
Well, I have a thing with Ballet and Jeté because I've played them quite steady. If a teacher or a ballet master is trying to find the fifth,
Yes.
and fifth and fifth and fifth and fifth,
Yes.
so there's like 3 quick in the space of,
yes.
and so they want something a little steadier.
Yeah.
And then let's say they're doing some to second where it will then go into a brighter 2. And so I find Jeté and Glissé a bit of a minefield. You know, like some other exercises, you know, you say you're a bit wary of. This is the one exercise that can be quite steady or really quick. And
Yes.
so it's the one that I have to really look at and see what the person is setting.
Yeah, the accent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's where the accent is. And of course that determines what I play.
I think when I'm looking at the marking, I just go through my database of music and then try to find the same sort of accent music, few of them, back in my mind.
That's
And
good.
then,
Yeah.
so if I start off, I can just switch to something else, but which got a similar sort of accent.
So I was playing for a teacher recently who was asking for a coda, which worked, but I just wasn't expecting it. I was expecting, from the way she set it, I was expecting more of something more like a reel. And then when she came over and indicated what she wanted at the piano, it was actually a coda, and it was right, and it worked. I'd missed that in marking, and I was paying attention in this class. You know, the caffeine had kicked in. I just didn't get that from the way that she set the exercise.
So when a teacher's started steady, like a jeté, for as you said, Matt, for the precision of the movements, that's what we're trying to aim for, and then we speed it up so that we get the muscle memory to go even faster.
Yeah.
How important is that rapport between you and the teacher when you're playing in the midst of your playing?
Very important. It depends on the relationship you have with the teacher as well.
Right.
And so you almost, like, if, say, for example, if you and I work together, I've got a rough idea when you're going to ask me to speed up from your combination. So I'll have my eyes on you from 8 counts or 8 bars before that, and waiting for you to either raise your eyebrows or spin your fingers around. And that just comes from the familiarity of working together, doesn't it? If it's, for me, if it's working with a teacher you're less familiar with, then it can sometimes, it's a bit like jumping into the deep end and not knowing if you can swim. Sometimes it can be, because you don't quite know how they're going to ask you to go quicker, or how much lead in you're going to get, and you can get 2 counts in, and then they want it 50% quick. You're like, oh, blooming heck, I didn't have a chance to quite physically and mentally prepare for that, and where I'm going to go repertoire wise.
Like I would appreciate it if the teacher can give us some sort of indication 8 counts into the new speed.
The last phrase,
Last phrase, but it doesn't necessarily that would happen.
No.
Because I've played for teachers where they'll start with the jeté section of the exercise where it's in 6/8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there'll be that, and then there'll be the 2/4 bit, which is possibly in first, and then some quick closings in fifth, and then a balance, and then you just got to quickly change your time signature.
I suppose that comes part of our job as well. You have to adapt instantly, don't you?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to adapt straight away.
You can't have a new intro for the new time signature. You, as the musician, have to trust and lay that 2/4 in, and then the dancers will follow. They'll hear it instantly.
That's what I find so amazing, though, that you respond so quickly that you can go from one time signature to another.
Yeah. And you also can't preempt your new time signature early. You've got to finish the 6/8 section and then into the 2/4 bit straight away, no introduction, and just lay that new tempo in the new time signature.
And it takes a teacher who's confident in music as well to be able to trust you that you're going to do that, doesn't it?
And the musician has to be confident enough to do that.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed what you do. Totally amazed.
Does anybody else forget that if you can remember the first time that you either changed tempo or changed time signature, or both halfway through an exercise, and you got it right? It's like, I can do my job. This is brilliant.
But before you did, your heart is just beating.
Gosh, I hope I get it right.
Well, I was playing an exercise once. It's for an open class, and the teacher and I played the famous hornpipe, but he wanted the whole exercise to get progressively quicker. So I think it started with things on quiet. It was all in 2, but the first bit was quite steady, And then we did some in first position that was a little bit quicker. Then it was some cloche at glissé height that was even quicker. And then it was a little balance, which was super quick soutenu, second side. And then I have to go back to that first tempo again for the second side.
Which
so
you've
good luck
already
remembering what
forgotten.
that was.
What was my tempo? Yeah.
But and it's little things like that.
Don't you sometimes get like frustrated that, like a teacher said something in 2/4 and with your experience, that 6/8 works better. But
What do you do? What do you do then?
I normally play what teacher said.
Yeah.
And then after, if it didn't work, I would suggest perhaps 6/8 might be better. But
That's good.
Well, that used to be one of my, what I think is one of the greatest interview questions if you're interviewing for a ballet pianist job. The teacher asks you for a 2/4, but then sets it on a 6/8. What do you do? It's like, for me, I would guess the answer is always go with what the teacher has set.
Yeah.
Always without a question, just because that's what, obviously, when you're marking it through, it's almost like you're dancing it or you're dancing it in your head. It's what you want, isn't it?
Yeah.
And 2/4 could have just been a miscounting, or, you could have wanted a 2/4 when you plan the class, and then you've got in there, you've seen it, and you're like, oh no, a 6/8 is going to work better.
Yes. But I think it's important for teachers, especially if they're young teachers and they're inexperienced, is to not feel that you have to be the font of all knowledge just because you're leading the class, because you have other experts like the pianists within the room, and to treat, when there's something like this that comes up, when there's like a mismatch between the exercise and what you're asking for and the actual playing of the piece that the pianist is playing, is to use that as part of the class, as part of a learning experience, that the students see that you, as a teacher, are also learning. Teaching is a two-way thing, and it's not all one way coming out of the teacher. And that's important, I think, that, we all learn from each other.
And the pianist is a resource.
Yes, that's very undervalued and very, in my experience, your experience is not used enough. And I would strongly suggest to any teacher to listen to their pianist, to talk to your pianist and to learn from them, and not feel that you have to actually be, numero uno all the time.
Yeah.
You don't.
And I always say to sort of fledgling pianists that are learning to play for class, because some concert pianists and are really good technicians, don't necessarily know how to play for class, and they sort of think that it's something that's maybe a little bit beneath them or something they haven't trained for. And I always say to pianists that I might train or I might coach, you have to be the unsung hero in the corner.
Yeah.
Make it work, make it fit, support the teacher, support the dancers without making it about you. Yeah. And that's how I try and always play for class. But as anyone else.
That's a
until that
way.
resource is, the teacher calls upon that resource, for some,
You guys really are. I mean, for live music, it's the lifeblood of dancing. I mean, it makes such a difference when you compare that to using music on a CD, and some people don't have the pleasure and the advantage of having a live pianist. Yeah. But it makes such a difference when you do have a live pianist.
It'd be like having not a live teacher, though, wouldn't it? As well, I imagine, from our point of view. What do you do? You bring a DVD in of a teacher setting an exercise, and then the class does it, and the pianist plays. It'd be difficult.
But I found some teachers sometimes get too much into just time signature. I don't know whether this is part of the teacher's training, but they just get obsessed with telling a pianist just a time signature. But sometimes time signature doesn't mean anything to us. We just need the right accent and the right speed.
I think instead of time signature, we could refer to it in a dance class as meter. Is it 2? Is it 3?
Yeah.
Is it 4, 5 or 6, 8?
The easiest thing for a teacher to do is just sing la-di-da what you want, a tune that you're familiar with, even if it's the same one every day.
Every time.
As long as you get the right meter right, your pianist will pick you up and they will fly with it.
That and the time signature, and we're pretty much set then, aren't we?
Yeah. And I always think of each bar exercise as having character or flavour.
Yes.
And it's up to the musician to bring the flavour of the act of that exercise, or bring the character. Yes. Is it cheeky? Is it, prickly? Is it, all those things?
Prickly.
Is it pique?
Is it pique? Do you know what I mean, though? And when the teacher sets an exercise, it's very helpful if they put that into their voice. But if they don't, they don't always have to, then we've got to be imaginative enough to think, okay, what was the previous exercise? What's the one after this? You know, it's going to be a different flavor, different character.
And that can make the biggest difference from one day to the next, just to hear somebody play a different tune to the same exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn some new repertoire now.
What sorts of things do we play for Batman Glissé and Batman Jeté?
I like a good reel.
I love the reel when you play the reel. It's brilliant. It's so exciting.
Like a good reel. The Scottish one, the Dashing White Sergeant, is bog standard stuff.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, it works. 1, 2, 3, and a 1, and a 2, and a 1, 2, 3. So a reel or a hornpipe or 42nd Street or the Muppets.
Yeah. I play the Muppets as well. Or I play Putting on the Ritz or something like that.
Yeah.
I played a French national anthem for French dancers once.
Really?
How did that go?
They loved it.
But I've also played like 6/8 marches, like Sousa marches and stuff.
Yeah.
When you want a jeté that's a little bit steadier and you want to put 3 into 1 count, things like that work really well. Or slightly slower marches, because then you can get the 3 glissé into the space of 1 Batman Jeté or something.
Or quicker 6/8, like the Mozart horn concerto. Is it E flat?
Oh, yeah.
Or a quadrillion. So, you know, it's
I played some Beethoven.
What Beethoven?
Oh gosh.
Or Tarantella's work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Little 6/8s.
If it's 2 for rag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Bibbity Bobbity Boo from the Sleeping Beauty, the Disney one.
Yeah.
So many different ways you can play it, isn't it?
It's the first exercise really in the class where you get this massive choice of music to play, isn't it?
Yes.
And I also think of Batman Jeté and Batman Glissé, because the exercise that follows is rond de jambe. So it goes back to being very slow and very still. So they have to be as warm as they can be from the waist down up until this point.
Right.
And so in terms of tempo, it depends what the tendu has been, what the plie has been, what the slow tendu, the quicker tendu. It all's leading up to this Batman Jeté, Batman Glissé. It's like a little climax before the bar exercise calms down again and we start finding the turnout in rond de jambe. So in terms of tempo, it can vary a lot.
But it's a lovely surprise, whatever you play, because you never know, not quite sure what's going to come out. It's great.
And once the speed that the music is established, you know, I sometimes play with the silence. And would you like that?
Oh, yeah.
Stop time and
Stop
things.
time.
Yes. Yeah. I've been
So
doing that a
good.
lot recently.
I think it's so useful and so helpful
Yeah.
to the dancers to make them really listen and not just regurgitate from day to day and not think what they're doing.
Yeah. I know we're going to get to it, but in jumps as well, I put a little bit of stop time in because they're providing the meter with the landing, you know, but that's for another
Or
episode.
playing on the offbeats, but let's get to that later on,
You do lots of tricky things like that, don't you?
I'm a pain in the backside
No,
sometimes.
we love it. We love it.
So that's all we have, podcasters. Another stellar episode for you. On the next episode, we slow things down a bit as we look at rond de jambe à terre. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please keep letting us know your thoughts via our social media platforms at the Ballet Piano Podcast, as we love to hear what you think and love connecting with our listeners. So until next time, it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.